But welcome everyone. We're excited to have you join us for today's webinar hosted in partnership with ACTE's Career Academy section. Ford NGL hosts these monthly sessions to spark conversations and share insights that move Career Academy work forward. And so today we're thrilled to welcome Henry Ford Learning Institute, or how we lovingly refer to them, HFLI, to the discussion. And so we hope you'll stay tuned for future sessions. But for now, I'm so happy to pass it over to Claire.
Hi, all. Welcome. Jessica, thank you for that introduction. We are so excited that you are all here with us. And just want to welcome you to building educator and student wellness through shared purpose, shared work, and shared joy this afternoon. Where we know it's a Monday afternoon. I see many of you are actually still at work. And you're entering this space, if you're here in Michigan, on a gray, snowy, rainy day. Those of you who are spread throughout the country, hopefully a little bit further. Just want to start with a few logistics. That QR code that is on your screen, you should be able to access our mural collaboration space through that QR code or through the link that was posted in the chat. Just want to make sure that we have that kind of starting logistic. If you can't use the mural or you can't navigate the mural, that'll be all right. We'll be able to come off mute. We'll be able to type in the chat. We want this to be a engaging and collaborative space for each of you today. So with that being said, are there any dying answers to our first question, which is, what is the best form of potato? Is anyone a brave soul willing to jump out there and share?
I'll share. This
Love
is
it.
um I think the best form of potato is a French fry for these reasons. You can walk around with them, you can sit down with them, you can add any kind of topping you want with them, or dip. I think they're the most versatile form of potato.
What a beautiful educator answer, too. Absolutely. We also have garlic mashed potatoes, no question, in the chat. I think that's from Debbie. Love that. French fries with pub vinegar, very specific. I miss some good pub vinegar right now. That sounds delicious. Lisa. Mashed potatoes, all kinds. Ooh, homemade potato chips. This is a great way on a Monday afternoon to get hungry before we actually launch in. Thank you all for kicking us off. I want to take a moment to give my co-facilitator and colleague an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name's Debbie. I'm with HFLI. I am really excited to connect with you today and work on some of the approaches that we think can be helpful in building educator wellness.
And I don't think I even did introduce myself to start. My name is Claire McKenna. I am similarly excited to be here, particularly during this time of great transition. We know that so many people in our country, mostly educators, right, are living through significant challenges that have an impact on schools, on our staff, and on our families, right? And now more than ever, as educators kind of on those front lines for our students, for funding, for our families, for all of the learning communities that we work within, we're really on that front line. And we really have to attend to our wellness in ourselves in order to be able to best service as educators, our students, our families, and our staff and colleagues. And so we want to begin right there actually today. If you navigate within our mural, there is a space where there is a wheel of emotions. And what we'd love for you to do first is find that wheel of emotions. I'm going to find it as well, and grab a white dot and just drag that white dot to whatever word, whatever emotion you're currently feeling as you enter into our virtual space today. I'll give everyone about 90 seconds to reflect, quickly think, how am I feeling? And move that white circle where you are. And of course, if you can't drag the circle, that's all right. You can always place that word in the chat if need be. I see a lot of dots moving into the yellow space. I love that. That's some emotions that we're seeing as joyful. We see some in the peaceful space, some in the orange, bewildered space. We appreciate you all for taking this moment to really think, take stock, and consider where you are. I'm going to give everyone about 20 more seconds. If you haven't placed a circle yet, please do so now. All right. Thank you all. And what we want to do first and foremost today is to really start with a grounding exercise. We know that it's extremely difficult as humans to engage in learning or in deep connection of any real kind if we're in a stressed mode. And like we said, just life is a little stressful right now, period. Education is big stressful right now, and it's a Monday in February. So if you would, we are going to ground together. So as you are able, we're going to have you start by placing both of your feet firmly on the ground. We're going to have you feel rooted in your feet and your toes. Maybe wiggle them a little bit, lift your heels up, place your feet firmly on the floor. As you are willing, I'm going to invite you to just gently close your eyes or to let your focus drift to like one vantage point. Maybe that's weirdly somewhere on my face. Maybe that's these stones on the screen, or maybe it's somewhere off the top of your screen altogether. And I'm going to ask that you take a deep breath in and that you exhale out. I'll invite you to feel really rooted in whatever seat you find yourself sitting in. Feel your legs on that chair or bench. Feel your back up against that chair or seat. Feel your arms kind of get heavy in your lap. And again, we're going to take another deep breath in. And we're going to exhale out. And I'll invite you to take 3 more deep breaths on your own time. And now I'll gently invite you to slowly open your eyes and welcome you kind of fully back into our grounded space. Thank you for taking that moment for yourselves and for us. Debbie, it's yours.
Sure. So Claire and I briefly introduced ourselves, but we wanted to give you just a teeny bit more information about who is HFLI. Henry Ford Learning Institute is an education-focused nonprofit. We're based in Southeast Michigan, and we really look to work to advance equity and excellence in education for all. We've done our work for about 25 years. This is actually our 25th anniversary, and we had started working in, with, and through Henry Ford Academy network of schools in 3 states, serving about 2,600 kids annually, and really preparing them to be successful, to live and thrive and drive positive social change. We also expanded that work to work with other schools, other districts, other innovation partners, really rooting our work, starting with design thinking, but thinking about how can that show up in other kinds of approaches, other kinds of learning, teaching, and leading opportunities for young people, particularly in historically marginalized communities, which continues to be so very, very important to work as a strategic ally in that space. As I mentioned, we're really thinking about how can education be excellent for all, not perfect, not one particular way, but excellent in that given context for the young people that we're working to serve and the educators who are in that space with them in their communities as well. Our whole approach has been grounded in deeper learning by doing. And that is when we bring together 3 different methodologies to focus on what are powerful learner outcomes. Again, ones that will help young people thrive and drive positive social change. So we bring together design thinking, human-centered design, which really puts who are we working to serve at the core of our decision-making and our design processes. A culturally responsive approach so that we can think about the people that we're working with, what do they bring to the table? What do we bring? How do those relationships connect together? And thirdly, high leverage instructional practices. How are we ensuring that the way that we enact learning, the way that we facilitate teaching and leading comes from research-based approaches that are grounded in strong background, training, and expertise. So all that comes together into deeper learning by doing for us. As we're thinking about today's session, we've really grounded it in wellness. And we've been thinking about how do you connect with and go on a learning journey with the young people you serve and the educators that you collaborate with and support. And we focus that around shared purpose, shared work, and shared joy. I want to pause for a second and recognize that that word joy might be hard to think about right now, but we don't think of joy as just fun, that it is something that you are infused with in the passion and the work and the focus that we bring to the table. And I'll get into that a little bit more in just a second. But we're trying to answer 3 specific questions. In purpose, we're looking at what are we trying to achieve? How are we coming together around something that we're passionate about? What do we want to strive for and reach in that ambitious goal that's important to all of us? It's the why you do the work. It's how you align everybody in service to that greater goal. It could be things like making sure all kids have a powerful learning experience, or that you're redesigning professional development to meet the real needs of everyone on your staff towards that end game. Maybe it's building community partnerships together to bring unique learning opportunities back into school or into the community for your kids. We also want to think about how can we share the work? How will we get it done? How will we make progress towards that ambitious process? It's the daily efforts that all of you bring to the table in order to address complex initiatives or challenges. It's engaging everyone from their particular role or expertise. So it comes from a human-centered perspective. What can I bring to the table? What talent, what interest, what strength, what relationships do I show up with? And then how can I use those to make progress towards that goal? It could be meetings, it could be lesson planning, it could be projects that are enacted, it could be hosting an advisory council, however that comes together to do that shared work in service of that shared purpose. And then lastly, how is the experience fulfilling? How is it recognizing small steps as progress and success? How are we feeling good about the work that we're doing? And when we're not, how are we building community in order to share that and uplift the positives in that space? It's engaging with other humans who have different skills and talents. It's reducing the stress through laughter, through connection, through community. It also helps build work muscle so that you can tackle the hard work. Those things are hard, building as a team, engaging in creativity, and really thinking about that connection as a source of joy, as a source of support, so that we can tackle what it is that we're trying to do. Ultimately, we have to think about it, we have to reflect on it, we have to be purposeful, as a community, as a connection, as a professional group in order to support our students. So how do we bring that all back to wellness? Well, when you think about it, focusing on a goal that matters helps us situate the hard work that we're doing, and it connects to the reason why we're going to persist. Why are we going to go through this effort to get to some place that's progressively better? As those actions relate to progress, we feel good about moving forward. That helps reduce some of the stress and makes us feel less alone. We're connected to a larger whole, a larger purpose, a larger effort, so we can share the load. By paying attention to the journey along the way, we have those bite-sized successes. It tends to build on itself. We build momentum, that flywheel approach. We feel stronger with each point of movement towards that goal. And then we can really think, I can do this again. I can keep going forward on this. And then it also relates to being part of a shared community. So we are social beings, we're storytellers. We connect and we process in community together. So when we can have that shared purpose, that shared work, and that shared joy along the way, we can really uplift one another. So that's going to be our focus today. We're going to be moving through a way to activate or connect with each one of those layers and levels. And we want to make sure along the way that as questions or comments come up, that you can drop those in the chat. We'll try and pay attention to them and react to them. We might not get to everything right away. We actually have a really jam-packed session because we were excited to connect with all of you, but we'll do our best to respond in the moment. And if we can't in the moment, we want to make sure that you know you can reach back out to us either through NGL or through the email addresses that we'll share. So we want to start with an activity, and I'm going to be proactive and aspirational in this. From where you are, I want you to reach out and grab some kind of object. Don't leave the room. Don't go too far. You have about 30 seconds. Grab an object and be prepared to show it to others. We're going to recommend you avoid pens or papers. Your time starts now. Okay, try and hold your object up. Because I'm sitting at my dining room table, have grabbed a salt shaker, which is a very hefty salt shaker. We are going to have you share your object in response to your defense strategy for a zombie apocalypse. So just imagine the zombies are coming across the lawn. They are coming towards you, and you have chosen your weapon that you are going to respond and protect yourself and whomever else is with you. We are going to ask brave soul number 1 to take their chosen object, come off mute, and share with us how you would use that to defend against the zombies that are coming your way. Then we're going to ask a second brave soul to come off chat and build on whatever that first strategy was. So I have a salt shaker here. It's pretty hefty. I can hold it. My next person would come off and say, I have a different object, and this is how I would combine it with Debbie's salt shaker in order to build a shared strategy. Now, we can't get to everyone off of Zoom and coming off of mute. So if you want to just drop your idea into the chat, we'll try and track it there. If you want to add it to the building strategy in Mural, we can track it there. But I'm going to give you about a minute to think about how would you use your object to defend yourself, and then we'll activate our activity. All right, so my salt shaker is up. Who would like to be the brave soul to share how you're going to build off of this salt shaker?
Well, I have my coffee cup, which has a handle on it. Definitely that salt shaker will be really good at hitting people, but I think we got to stay awake. And so we're going to have to consume coffee out of this coffee cup to make sure we stay awake for everything that's going to happen to us.
Brad, I appreciate not being worried about falling asleep in the middle of this.
Correct.
So that someone else has my back. Thank you.
Yes.
Who can we call in? Who's our brave soul number 2 to come off mute and share how they're going to build on Brad's coffee cup? Or the nectar of the gods that is contained within that coffee cup?
I can jump in. I have this huge water bottle, and Brad's coffee made me think we also have to be hydrated in order to be able to continue to survive. So not only will the water bottle be a hydration tool, it is also very heavy and can be used as a weapon once it is no longer filled with water.
I feel like we have a common, we're just going to bash them as a response with our high energy, caffeine infused state of mind or being. Do I have another brave soul?
Debbie, I'll take us away
Okay.
from bashing everybody. I have an apple.
Yes.
And my apple not only would have the zombies wanting to consume it because they're hungry from all that marching around trying to eat, but it's also a squishy stress ball, which I gotta think probably is poisonous in some way, shape, or form. So I think we're poisoning the zombies while they're eating our apple.
Nice.
And not eating us.
Nice. Beth, were you going to add on top?
Well, now I have to add on to that, which is different than what I was going to add on to, but I'll go with it.
All right.
So this is just not an ordinary cup. This is a cup made by a Polish potter. And what people don't know is Polish people are the ultimate zombie killers. So now that they've been weakened by Scott's apple, my cup is infused with the special killer powers. So I'm going to come in behind Scott and kill the weakened zombie with my Polish zombie killer powers.
I like the infusion of the supernatural magic to our space because, you know, the reality of our zombie apocalypse needed to be taken up a level. Can I get one more? I love the fact that things are happening in the mural. If you're able to see that in the chat, I've got a soccer mom cup that could be used for coffee or other beverages of note, depending on the time of day or location, to bring some mom energy to the place. Because really, moms have got it going on. I appreciate that. Do I have one more?
I have a really small rounded stone that I'm not really sure what good it's really going to do with the zombie unless you can have really good aim and get it like in the eye socket through the brain. You know, like you need almost like a slingshot or something to be able to precisely use it as a weapon. But I could try.
You know, I think it's the strategy of the collective, right? We've got some Polish magic happening. Maybe that can add to your small stone, Carrie. Carrie or Kari?
Carrie.
Carrie, thank you. Great. Okay, so we could keep going with this. We could drop them in the chat. We could stay in mural. We could continue our out loud conversation. But our point isn't just to pause and do a team building or an activity. It's to really think about how does this activity connect to a greater wellness, connect to one of our three centers of attention. And in this case, we're focusing in on that shared joy. So in this experience of our zombie apocalypse defense strategy, how might you have experienced some joy? And then also think about how might you take this back into the work that you're doing to share with your communities, to engage. So how did you experience shared joy? And maybe even just what stands out to you about the activity? One of the things that we often hear from participants to get us going a little bit is that this is a build on, it's a yes and strategy. So that sense of connecting with others by adding to ideas, being creative and expansive in your thinking has support for thinking about a challenge more optimistically.
I really like the creative aspect of it, thinking of new uses for common things.
Thanks, Lisa. So as an educator, and in my background, that wait time is always so stressful. And I want to fill it with ideas, but I also don't want to shut down the ideas that you have. You can drop them in the chat. You can drop them in the mural. Anything else that might stand out? All right, well, let me share just a few more and then we'll shift over to our next phase. Some of the other ideas that we often hear are that when you engage in an activity like this that allows people to think in the fantastic, a little bit removed from reality, it allows people to start talking to one another, sharing ideas before you get into deeper topics. So it can break the ice a little bit. It also allows some space for maybe some constructive disagreement or some exploring of, well, what if you changed your strategy of using a small stone like this? Or gosh, I don't know. I don't think coffee is the elixir of the gods. I'm a tea person. So maybe that wasn't as productive or proactive for me. So you can open up some conversations around greater value, building connection, just breaking down some creative opportunities. We know from research that when you have a chance to share ideas that maybe on a teeny bit vulnerable, you're always ready and more able to engage in deeper conversations that require more of your emotional connection or your intellectual commitment. So thanks for starting with that. Hopefully this is something that you can take back to your spaces as it makes sense. I'm going to turn it back over to Claire.
Thanks, Debbie. I'm lucky enough to move us into that next portion that does have a little bit more of that emotional connection. And so we always like to zoom out at HFLI, like Debbie shared, with our deeper learning by doing and explicitly name kind of how we're facilitating so that if and when you hopefully want to bring this back to your space, you can do the same thing. And so we just engaged in shared joy. And like Debbie said, we took some creative risks that now set us up to be a little bit more vulnerable, hopefully, when we lean into this idea of our shared purpose, right? And when we think about shared purpose, we often think about how our individual work lines up with what our colleagues and what those alongside us are doing on a daily basis. We think about our collective effort driving towards a big vision. So we can think about that in our classroom, our collective effort with our kiddos. We could think about that on our grade level teams. We could think about that in our academies. We could think about that in our school districts, or really, we could even think about that as all of educators as we are nationwide on this call. And that big vision is where you can really begin to see the alignment between your personal values, your personal purpose, your why, and the why of the organization or your learning community and their purpose and their values. So it can really help to strengthen that sense of community and feeling like I belong to this learning environment. I belong to this learning community. And that connection can help to increase your resilience and really help contribute to your wellness. It also can help with employee retention, which quite frankly, very much helps with wellness and resilience as well, right? It can help work through the resilience of difficult tasks, which are very much a part of being an educator these days. And it can also help ward off those feelings of hopelessness and isolation that many educators feel during this kind of like mid-section of the school year. And so when we think about being in a community of educators at large, we like to think that we have the real opportunity for shared purpose, right? And what we'd love for each of you to do is to navigate again to the shared purpose activity within our mural. There's a bunch of Post-its. You can either click right into one or you can add a new one. But we'd love for you to share your first name and where you work, 1 to 2 sentences about why you became an educator, and 1 to 2 sentences on the impact that you hope to have on your students or your colleagues and learning community. What we can do is, oh, nope, that's not what I meant to copy and paste into the chat. Sorry. I meant to copy and paste the link to the mural if you need it. That was one of our zombie apocalypse answers. There's the link to the mural. I will also navigate over to our shared purpose space. Yes, I love it. People are already adding. One cool Zoom feature that I will name right now. If you're not able to get into the mural itself and you want to look at the mural to be able to read these post-its a little bit more closely, you can actually zoom in on the shared screen on Zoom itself if you like use your mouse pad and kind of zoom in. So I'll give everyone 3 minutes to reflect. Again, what brings you to this work? Why did you become an educator? And 1 to 2 sentences on the impact you hope to have on your learning community. We'll give some silent thinking and writing time now. And if you want to put it in the chat, we can always copy and paste it over for you, just so you know. And as you share your why, your purpose, and the hope of what you, or your hope of what you want to leave, I would then invite you to begin reading through our collective shared purpose. Read and zoom in on other educators and colleagues' post-its and see what brings them to this work as we visually build our shared purpose. And now I'm going to ask, as we share and read through our fellow educators' answers, I'm going to ask us to engage in a conversation around what connections we see. So please come off mute, share one connection you see in our shared purpose, or add that connection right into the chat.
It looks like a lot of us support the idea of a student's individual journey and, a lot of references to helping them find their voice or finding inspiration. So, we all seem to have more of that differentiated approach of trying to facilitate what's best for each unique student.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. Absolutely. Journeys, learning, students, those words keep popping up throughout 100%. What other connections do we see? I keep seeing the word coaching, right? I think, and Carrie, you were saying like facilitating, coaching, like this idea of really doing it with our students. Any other connections that anyone would like to either put in the chat or come off mute and share? Okay. Then I have two other reflection questions for us. One being, we did this with a group of educators online on Zoom. I'm wondering how you might envision an activity like this, where you're sharing whys or you're sharing shared purpose in person with your colleagues, and how you might engage in building this sense of shared purpose with your teammates in your learning community. Again, as those ideas are coming, feel free to come off mute and share or add to the chat.
From Romeo, we have a theme this year, which is purpose from our superintendent. And so every staff meeting, so we all kind of created our purpose statements from staff and teachers and administration and put it in a great big Google Doc. And he's going to kind of morph that and kind of do those. But every staff meeting, I have 4 people from our staff stand up, talk about their purpose and what it means to them. And they have a marker holder that can go onto their whiteboard that says a purpose with an explanation point. And I don't have any here. I'd share, and then the certificate. And so we share those, our purpose statements every month currently right now. So this follows right along with that shared purpose of creating that shared energy around that.
I love that. I love just the power of standing and sharing verbally. And then also the visual of that on the board marker that you talked about, like those two things, those are powerful. Thank you, Brad. Anyone else?
Go
ahead.
No, Carrie, you first.
I was just gonna say I could see this doing this in like an advisory council meeting when we're working with, our staff, but also our business partners, maybe at the start of the year or something, especially to maybe re-engage partners who've been doing it a while and maybe need a reminder themselves of why they're doing it and committing, but then also just from new people who are added so that everyone understands that we're all in it for the same general reason.
Yes. So such an important idea of bringing the greater community into that shared purpose as well. And obviously doing that with those community partners. That's such a great idea. Scott, last one.
Yeah, Claire, I was thinking, even though, again, we do have this idea of many educators in the room, regardless of that, and I like what the advisory that Carrie spoke about, the idea of going back to taking us back to when we were the student, taking us back to when we were sitting in that desk in that chair, because you asked why did we come in, and a lot of it was around the people that were in front or on the side in our classrooms, but bringing us to the space where we were actually back in that time, and think about how then we were influenced by those outside and inside factors. I'm complete.
Yes, I love that idea. and how that emotional connection could really be the start, not necessarily the start, but it could really lead to that profound sharing of how we began. I really appreciate that, and might be stealing it for a future session of our own. Thank you all for sharing and engaging. I'm going to pass it back to Debbie for some shared work.
So I also heard in there the importance of going back to purpose, that it's not a one and done conversation. It's not a one and done connection. And I think that's important to remember, that even as our North Star might not change, how we get there might evolve, and it might involve purposes along the way that have to adjust or adapt. At the end, we want what's best for our students, we want what's best for our community, but getting there can change over time as we change over time, as the people we engage with change over time. Connecting that back to shared work, we want to actually engage all of you in some shared work. We've talked about shared joy, we've talked about shared purpose. We're going to lean into doing something together to build a resource that you can take with you. So what I want to focus on is that many of you are already doing some efforts around building shared purpose, or making that more explicit. You're doing work together in teams, in sessions, in meetings, in classrooms, in schools, in community advisory councils, in working with business partners. And now we want to just ground it with some real examples. So we're going to be working in the mural. We're going to be showing that, and we're going to focus on sharing some of our examples for how you might build shared purpose, engage in shared work, and some thoughts around shared joy, or some examples. But then we're going to ask as a whole group for you to add to that mural, either through writing in the mural directly, dropping ideas in the chat, or coming off mute, to identify ways that we might share with one another that shared purpose, that shared work, and shared joy. So let me just explain or talk through a couple of them that we included. So our HFLI examples in that mural under shared purpose, some other ideas that might show up are engaging in a book study that you can all come together around, one that's particularly connected to a theme or a challenge that your community is facing, engaging in restorative circles, having some sessions to confirm and affirm core values of your organization, or maybe developing a portrait of a graduate together. I'm imagining that if you've gone through the NGL process, that many of you have that in place. I know it's a really core component of Career Academies. Some shared work examples could be peer observation, where you had the opportunity to observe someone else's classroom and then maybe discuss it after the fact, looking at something maybe you're working on together. It could be professional learning communities, or having a teaching partner where you're co-planning a unit, or you're co-planning a project, or you're figuring out with your business partner what could be a sponsored project or an externship or an internship opportunity. That shared work around designing and building advisory council meetings and better engage community members. Or they could be what's happening at a grade level meeting or at a department meeting that goes beyond what are the news and notices that you need, what are the deadlines that we have to have. Those are examples of things that we can do together to really make progress towards that aspirational goal. And then lastly, in that shared joy, hearkening back to joy is not just fun. There are certainly fun things that we can do to build team spirit, to build connection, to break down some of the barriers or the stress, to lean into that. But it's also about how can we celebrate accomplishment individually or collectively? How might we professionally exhibit our achievement or our learning to promote progress and promote a shared practice, or support one another? How can we do connections before content? We started this session by asking you about your favorite kind of French fry, or your favorite kind of potato. Sorry, I leaned into the French fry part of it. But doing connections before getting involved in content is a way to start to infuse the work with that sense of fulfillment, that sense of joy, and then documenting it as you move forward. We love to share food. I think that that's a core human experience. So I always throw in either sharing fries or sharing meals. I'd like to invite you now to think about what are some ways that you're already supporting building a shared sense of purpose, or building a shared focus of work, or some shared joy opportunities. And then also maybe envisioning some possibilities. You haven't done it yet, but you heard an idea that sparked something new that you want to add to your list or your repertoire. We'll build this together and then we'll make it available after the fact so you can come back to it. So our shared work in this moment is to co-create a resource that we can all come back to and use by adding some Post-its in any of the 6 empty boxes that you'd like. So as you're adding ideas, I know that more will come. One of the things that we'll commit to do is leave this mural live so that you can continue to add ideas as they come back and check in and see if any new ideas have been added. We encourage you to do that. Once it's had a few days or maybe a week, we'll screenshot it and add that to HFLI Studio as a static visual of what was co-created together. So if you don't get all your ideas in today, that's okay. We'll make sure that it stays live and you can come back to it as long as you retain the link. Let's take maybe another 40 seconds or so because I want to make sure we circle back around to where we began, which is the importance of wellness as educators. These are tactics to get us there or to play into an overall experience, but I don't want to end on that.
So often, as educators and really just as humans, and even currently, as we engage in like the shared work of, oh, here's an idea, let me add it. I can see all the different arrows and names moving around, right? We go throughout our day moving from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and suddenly you realize you haven't even like gone to the bathroom between all of the meetings that you've had in a school day or all the classes that you've taught, right? And we often don't have the time to stop and to pause and to be mindful of how we're doing, what work we're doing, and the impact that we are having. And so when we think of shared work, shared purpose, and shared joy, part of it is taking the time and the responsibility to give ourselves space as humans, to be mindful of the emotions that we're carrying, the energy that we're bringing into a space. And we want to create again that time for you right now. So we've spent the past 52-ish minutes together, reflecting, playing a little bit, thinking a little bit. What we'd love for you to do now is to navigate back to our emotion wheel. And what you'll see is we placed the emotion we felt when we entered the space with a white dot. I'm going to ask you to grab a green dot now, and you might still be feeling the exact same emotion. That's okay. But take stock, consider how you're feeling in this moment. And I'm going to give you 90 seconds to replace a green dot on that emotion that you're feeling now. I love the expanding of the dot to maybe incorporate more than one emotion. Smart. I like that. Again, seeing a lot of our green dots in the 6 main emotions of joyful and peaceful, as well as some in powerful, which we love. And our kind of last reflection question that we have for everyone is how, if at all, your emotion shifted from the beginning of our webinar to now, and or considering these practices that we've kind of gone through together of shared purpose, shared work, and shared joy, how do you see them contributing or connecting to educator and or student wellness? If anyone has a thought that they'd like to share.
I'll be honest, my emotions shifted. I just, kind of as you noted, as an educator and a person, it's kind of a strange time to be living in right now. There's a lot going on. And so, just generally kind of feeling a little, that's my bewildered dot there. Um, but your grounding exercise at the beginning was really very powerful. And then just connecting with other people and participating in these exercises and stuff really has really been great. And I'm looking forward to connecting with my colleagues in some of the ways that we've talked about today. So kind of I'm feeling energized and looking forward to doing some of this.
Thank you for that reflection, Beth. I appreciate that.
Hi, guys.
Oh, yeah, Claudia, thank you.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry I had to step out for a little bit. I work with neurodivergent students. So when they need me, they need me. But I was looking at your emotions wheel, and I actually have one myself, which I use. I think the organization was a little bit different because you had mad and I have like anger or sad. So I wasn't able to study your chart very well. But I have to say it has been very helpful for me to have this because I try to get my students to use the right words when they have big emotions. And with that, I help them think about the emotions better. And that has been very, very helpful. So they all know me and they know my little wheel. So that's what I'm known for here.
I love that. Thank you, Claudia. And what we always say is like, and adults are just as bad at identifying emotions as kiddos, if not more so, right? And so truly, like, what a beautiful practice of if you're helping your kiddos do that, what a lifelong skill that they'll be able to take with them when we think about resilience and working through the difficulties of being just human, really. I wish that we could keep talking about this forever, but I'm going to move us kind of to our closing given our time. Debbie, I think this is yours.
It is. So as you are continuing to go back into working with young people, working with educators formally, and then also informal educators, your business partners, your advisory council members, instructional staff and leaders in your school, we wanted to let you know about some upcoming opportunities. Just to, if you want some support, you want to dive a little bit deeper in, we have a fellowship that's for Southeastern Michigan that really focuses on how do you show up with your identity and support and serve kids, primarily who don't share the same identities as you. We have some summer workshops around design thinking for deeper student learning and one that's around adaptive leadership. And both of those think about how can you use the tools and methods from design thinking, culturally responsive practices and principles, high leverage instructional approaches to really consider complex learning opportunities for young people in community and in your classrooms. And then what are some adaptive challenges that adults might face? It's important also that you know that you have access to ask questions after the fact. You can reach out to Claire directly. Her email is right there. Mine's at the beginning. And you can also ask questions to design thinking at hfli.org if you have some questions around possible opportunities. All of your resources will be available at learn.hfli.org. That's our HFLI Studio course where you have the slides, you'll have some of the downloadables, you'll have the screenshots of the murals. We'll wait to screenshot the mural until you've had a chance to add any more work. And we will keep up the mural collaboration space as live so you can add ideas after the fact and continue that shared work if new ideas come to you after the fact. I want to close by saying I'm so grateful for the work that you do, so thoughtful for the opportunity to engage with you in this moment in time. And I wish you tremendous wellness and resilience